Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dad's Expensive Hobby.
What's up?
Today, let's review the Dasin Toys 1/12 scale Earth Guardian, or as you may have figured out by now, it's freaking Captain Planet. But anyway, this is a freaking weird from top to bottom release. Let's have some fun going over it. But first, let's take a look at its package really quick, because when I first opened the main box that it came in, I was like, what a weird package. Because this right here, if you don't know, Captain Planet was a cartoon back in the 90s, and this box is pulled straight from the 1990s. And it's actually kind of cool looking. This is absolutely a backdrop that would have been going on something in the 1990s, but it's a little cheap. The cardboard is awfully thin and kind of cheap. That's actually a pretty decent image of Captain America right there. But I do like the window, having him front and center, showing us everything going on. I mean, hell, this is a third-party company, and they actually used the word Captain Planet right there at the top. So just some weird choices there. The back looks pretty good, showing us some more figure images, and it actually spoils us a little bit with some of the accessories right there. And it says right, I want you to save our planet. I want somebody to save me from reviewing this figure.
Help me!
But here we are. Anyways, and I want to point out some other weird choices about just the box in general. That way we can kind of set the tone for what you're going to see with this figure. Because the box is tall. It's basically the same height as like a, your run-of-the-mill Marvel Legends figure box would come in. But it's the same width as the freaking, Kid GT Goku from SH Figure Arts. So that's just, that's some weird choices, but definitely not the last of weird choices from this figure. But speaking of the figure, just get out of here, box. Let's just get into him real quick and see how tall he is. To the top of his head, he is just north of 5 3/4 inches tall, so he's not a super tall figure, which would make him just south of 15 centimeters. And I'm going to say that I guess that works out. I'm not sure how tall Captain America is supposed to be, but let's stand him next to some other 1/12 figures from other lines and see how they measure up real quick. All right, first up, here he is with the demoniacal fit Tenacious Martialist, and hairline to hairline, he has just a little bit of height on Goku there. And here he is with the Marvel Legends Holocaust Build-A-Figure Wave Cyclops. And Cyclops absolutely towers over him, but they actually look very similar in quality. And next up, here he is with the Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 Vega, and Vega towers over him as well. But Vega's kind of a big strapping guy. But oddly enough, visually anyway, they kind of hold up next to each other. And here he is next to the Storm Arena Street Fighter Alpha 3 Ken, and Ken looks fantastic. But honestly, that other one doesn't look bad, but we'll get into that more here in a minute. And lastly, here he is with the Mafex knockoff CT Toys Hush Batman. And of course, Batman being a 6'4", I think, sized character, he is taller than Captain Planet here. But notice that they look very, very similar. We'll get into that more here in a little bit. Hey, real quick, if you like what we're doing here on the channel, be sure and give this video a like, leave us a comment. It really helps things out a lot, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now for accessories. He comes with a pretty nice spread of accessories, especially for his price point. But unfortunately, this is where some of the weirdness about this release really starts to creep in. First and foremost, he comes with a pamphlet that explains to you, for some reason, what all of his accessories are, just in case you're an idiot and your eyeballs don't work. But we'll circle back to that here in a second. He comes with one head sculpt, which is the classic Captain Planet head sculpt, the little mullet, and it looks pretty good. He also comes with 4 different exchangeable faceplates. He comes with a serious face on him in the package, and he also has a smiling face that looks pretty good. He gets a second smiling face. The only difference is its eyebrow is raised up for some reason, and he comes with a teeth gritting face that I think actually looks halfway decent as well. He also comes with 2 different little power rings or whatever, just like the kids from the show wore to create Captain Planet, and they come with 5 replaceable ring icons, for all the different elements. And on the pamphlet, it says that the ring can be worn on a real person's hand. So sorry, Pinocchio, but you're out. He also comes with 10 different hands, 2 fist hands on him in the package, and then a nice little spread of open style post hands that look pretty good. And lastly, he comes with a nice stand. It's got a nice black basin that actually can double as a storage compartment from some of his excess accessories. So that's pretty good. And of course, the clear acrylic arm on it with some nice joint tolerances too, by the way. So overall, like I said at the beginning, this is a good spread of accessories. All right, now for his aesthetic. This is a bit of a double-edged sword with this figure, okay? Because Dasin Toys, I'm not familiar with them. They're to me, an unknown third-party figure company. But this figure does not feel cheap. He feels very high quality. He's got some weight to him. He's not light and crappy feeling like, some of those KOs and those Chinese knockoffs and stuff out there. This feels like a quality figure. And I would go as far as to say, in hand, he kind of feels like a Mafex figure.
What?
And some of his joint systems are a lot like Mafex. Like if you blindfolded me and just put this figure in my hand, I would think I was holding a Mafex. This figure feels high quality, but there are some things about it that aren't high quality. We're getting ready to get into that. And he's covered in paint. But let's start at his head. The head sculpt is pretty decent. It looks, it's a freaking green mullet, just like, Captain Planet would have. It needs a wash or some dry brush. That would really kind of make it pop. The blue parts have shading throughout all over the figure, and it looks and is done very well. There is a nice matte finish to all of it, and it looks really good. It's subtle in some spots, and it's more blatant in others where it should be. The paint on that is done really well. The paint where there's red is done really well. The little planet kind of emblem right here on the chest, done very, very well. Overall, his sculpt isn't bad. Captain Planet isn't exactly like a super duper buff character, but this maybe is a little soft, especially from the waist down. Like the legs are quite tubular. They could have done that a little bit better, but then again, Captain Planet didn't exactly have huge jacked legs like he's in there doing squats all the time. But they could have given us a little bit more. So the legs are definitely soft, but the upper body I think is sufficient. There is a nice taper on it, but we're going to get into the weirdness here in just a second. First thing I want to point out that's weird about the shape of him, the hips. Those hips, if you can see that, are wider than the waist.
Fuck.
And that's not so awesome. They gave him a booty, and you can really see it from the back how the hips are a lot wider than the waist, and I don't know why they did that. It seems like they could have avoided it, but they didn't. His calves, there's some taper to them, but one calf is wider than the other. If you can see that, this calf right here is wider than the other one, so that kind of sucks. Let's talk about his torso. The torso, this piece right here, it is 3 pieces, as you can see that moving. And that's fucking weird, but we'll get into that more in his articulation. But that's a floaty piece. And that right there, you see that? That is asymmetrical, that cut right there. Why they did that?
You're a piece of shit.
Couldn't tell you. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. That's a little unfortunate the way they did that cut. They didn't need to do that. And you remember how I mentioned the matte finish on the blues? There is matte finish everywhere on the blues except the knees. They are shiny. They don't have that, and neither do the elbows. But even high-end imports fall prey to that. If anybody has ever seen the Turles figure from SH Figure Arts, their Dragon Ball line, he's the same freaking way. So I can't exactly rake some third-party company with half the budget over the coals for that. Also, there's a little bit of inconsistency with the finishes. The red, especially like mostly on the chest, is matte, but if you get more towards the back, it's a little more matte to satin, and that's a little weird. Also, some mismatched reds, if you haven't already seen it. The red on the wrist is much different than the red on the fist. That's not cool at all. And brace yourself, the same thing for the feet. And look at that freaking foot. Look how big that freaking foot is. That is ginormous. They gave him Ronald McDonald feet for whatever reason. And that's really taken me out. That's weird as shit. And they gave him some kind of weird wood grain type of tread on the bottoms of the shoes for some reason. But with the aesthetic, I don't know, does the really nice paint work with the shading and the paint that's everywhere? It is good. The paint is really good. It's not sloppy at all. But then they go and put crappy freaking red hands and really weird, crappy off red giant feet on him. That's really weird. You tell me what you think. That's a little odd to me. All right, now his articulation. Again, this is another double-edged sword. I don't really know how how I feel about it, other than it's some parts of it are a little unfortunate. But let's start with his head. He's got a very nice neck joint that moves very, very smoothly. Nothing cheap or loose feeling about it. The head moves really, really nice. It doesn't look up, but that's not their fault, because he's got a mullet, so you're not going to get a look up, but he'll look down fantastic and all kinds of nuance. And that's because, if I can pop it off, they did give him a double ball peg right there in the neck. So I like that a lot. Ooh, one other complaint. The hair does come off slightly too easily for my liking. I would like it to be a little more snug on there, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Shoulders come out to a little bit above 90 with no problem. Full on 360. He has some semblance of a butterfly in there. Doesn't give you much. You do get some forward and back, and the hands will come across the body ever so slightly. So that is definitely better than some of the Marvel Legends figures. So they've got them beat right there. Bicep swivel that works just fine. Double jointed elbow doesn't engage the best. It is slightly past 90, so it's passable, but that elbow doesn't look good because of the shiny, non-matte finished elbow right there. Now the wrists, they kind of sit out on a ball hinge that doesn't look fantastic, but I think mostly that's because of the color disparity between the hand and the forearm. Now, here's where things get a little crappy. I already pointed out this floaty kind of rib piece here in the torso. Why they did that, I don't know. But he does get really good range. If you see that, he crunches forward really well. And he leans back pretty good. But when he leans forward, you start to get some gapping right there. But there is a double ball peg in here. And he can move all around really, really well. But if you get overzealous, you get that right there. Do you see that?
What the fuck is that?
That is friggin' disfigurement on a scale never before seen. That looks weird as heck. Ignore the hair coming off. I already pointed out that it comes off too easy. But look at that. That is friggin' awful. Why that floaty piece right there that's independent of this upper part is just beyond me. But his range of motion, you can't argue with it. But you get that because this is independent of this. Do you see what I'm saying? This middle part is independent of that. And it just, what the fuck? What is that? That's awful as shit. But anyways, moving on. It's like a ball peg down here in the waist, but it's not for tilt or anything. It is basically just there to be a swivel, and it works just fine, I suppose. I've pointed out the weird kind of hips, the birthing hips that they kind of gave him. Why? I don't know. But Storm Collectibles is guilty of that on many of their releases. So we kind of got to scratch that as well. But, and also I got to point out, sorry, this is slightly soft. It's not as soft as say like the Daima Goku or whatever, or even like Storm Collectibles, but it is softer, but it doesn't afford us, I should say, any more range. So he's about 45, maybe a little bit past that. So that's not great. And if you don't watch it, it will separate and leave a little bit of gapping. So that kind of sucks, but that's a lot because he's on drop downs. And I hate drop downs. Why they gave him a drop down, I don't know. But if I'm demonstrating it, he has drop downs. So, and the problem is drop downs are for a front kick, and it doesn't help his front kick. So that kind of sucks. You can force it a little bit, but it's going to roll his leg out, and I think that looks even more ridiculous. And I told you they sculpted him a butt, and even though that's a little bit soft, you're not going to get much kickback. So the hips and legs, they really kind of suck. That's unfortunate. Now, he does have a thigh swivel in there, and that works just fine. He's got a double jointed knee. I mean, it's way past 90, not the most range, especially for somebody with slender legs like this. You should get a little bit more, but the proportions are there, so that's okay. And again, the knees are shining. That kind of sucks. No shin swivel, thank goodness. But the one joint that has an odd tolerance is this down here. And that's because they put double ball pegs in the ankles, which you should never, ever do. And because of that, this one's really, really loose. But you don't get hardly any up or down. I mean, you get a little bit of down, but not really. And it all looks stupid because of that gigantic foot that they gave him. And check out this lovely toe hinge right there. That makes me want to rip what's left of my hair out. That looks disgusting and awful. So, in total, his articulation is good and horrible all at the same time. Final thoughts on Captain America here. He's a double-edged sword. In a lot of ways, I want to recommend him because he visually is a nice little representation of Captain America. And in other ways, I'm like, steer clear of it because there's too many things that could have been avoided that are crappy. And I'm talking mostly about like the weird articulation and the mismatched colors with the hands and the feet and the size of the feet. He's got great accessories. His price point's on the money. I think he was like 35 or 36 bucks, so he's not going to cost you a lot, but he does look good. So I don't even know how to grade this fucking figure, to be quite honest with you. But because there are so many things that are such drawbacks, even though he is a nice looking figure that is well painted, and the figure itself is a quality figure, I'm going to have to give him a C- and a non-recommend. That is all I've got for him, unfortunately. Subscribe, like, leave us a comment, all that good stuff. And with all that said, this has been Dad with Dad's Expensive Hobby, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.